Hi there, I'm Tim. Welcome to the channel and thanks for checking out this Nobody's Fool guitar lesson by Cinderella. If you've been following the channel for a while, sorry that I've been a bit scarce, but I've been going through a lymph node issue in my face. My face still isn't quite right. It was pretty excruciating, but time to get back at it. I got lots of new stuff coming. So enough about me. Let's get at this Cinderella guitar lesson and learn how to play Nobody's Fool on guitar. The intro riff, which also doubles as the verse riff, is an arpeggiated figure. We're implying some arpeggiated chords all over top of an A root. So we start by hitting an A, open A, and then we're going to hit the 5th fret both on the G and the B strings. So we go G, B string, back to the G string. Okay, now the fingering that I'm using is the fingering that Jeff LaBar seemed to favor when he was playing this, but there's definitely some wiggle room for whatever feels comfortable for you, so you can feel free to copy what I'm doing, but if that's just not working for you, there's definitely several different options that you could probably come up with. So just do whatever you feel like doing. So yeah, there's the first 2 beats, 1 and 2 and then we move up to the 6th fret on the B string and the 7th fret on the G string, and we repeat that same sequence of strings. Open A, G string, B string, back to the G string. So our first measure. Okay, measure 2 starts with the same arpeggio that we started with. And then we hop all the way down to the 2nd fret here. It's actually a G chord, just we're not playing that bottom root on the 6th string. We're just hitting the B on the 2nd fret of the A string. And then the 3rd fret's on the top 2 strings. Okay, so there's our first 2 measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... The second half of the riff starts off the same as the first half. Back up to that first arpeggio that we did. And the second. And our final measure changes up a little bit. We have to hop back down to open position here. Fret C on the 3rd fret of the A string with your 3rd finger. And then we're going to hit some open strings. So this is a nice and easy part. We're going to hit open G, open D, back to the open G, back to the open D. So 1 and 2 and 3. That's just pretty basic there. And for our last beat here, we're going to come up to the 2nd fret of the G string and then the 3rd fret of the B string. So we're kind of going to a D power chord here to outline that. And then just a 2-3 on the A string, and then we can repeat. Nice and easy, hey? Let's do the chorus. Guitar 2, the distorted guitar, makes its initial entrance in the last measure of the verse where we play a C and a D power chord. So once again, I'm playing these power chords how I've seen Jeff LaBar play it live. So that's where I get a lot of my information from, is watching this stuff live. And I'll show you how I'm doing it, and then just a quick alternate way if you don't want to do it this way. But I'm getting my C power chord by fretting the 3rd fret of the A string with my 3rd finger, and then making sure that the flesh of that, the pad of the finger is touching the 4th string so that the 4th string is dead. And then I'm just hitting strings 5, 4, and 3 to get the root and 5th in there, the C and the open G, and getting a nice power chord sound. And then just going up to a D power chord. Open D, 2nd fret on the G string, 3rd fret on the B string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're into our chorus. Now, if you don't want to play those two power chords like that, quick and easy way of doing it would just be to get a C power chord shape off of the 3rd fret of the A string, slide that up 1 whole step to the 5th fret for D. And then we get into our chorus proper, which is an A power chord, down to an F off of the 1st fret of the low string, up to a G on the 3rd fret. And then we have to do a little horse gallop thing. Okay, so 1, and a 2, and a. All that I'm doing is palm muting the low string, fret the 3rd fret there, and get those 2 quick palm mutes in there. And then hop up to a C power chord, back to a G, and then it repeats. That's all there is to the chorus. Now on the recording, there is actually another guitar part that comes in on the choruses. It's not in the first chorus, but starting on the second chorus, it comes in and it plays through every time the chorus progression happens. It plays through. And it's a clean guitar part. So it's kind of cool because it's a clean guitar part when there's a lot of heavier distortion going on. So it kind of is a nice example of how you can mix and match these kind of tones. And it's another arpeggiated figure. And that just repeats like that. So what we're doing is outlining an A minor to start with. We're going to have the 2nd fret of the G string, 1st fret of the B string, and open E. And we just go G string, B string, E string, back to the B string. 1 and 2 and. And our next chord is a F minor that we're outlining. So we're going to bar the top 2 strings at the 1st fret, and then we can pop our 3rd finger down on the 3rd fret of the D string. So then 4th string, and then just 2nd string, 1st string, 2nd string. So our first 2 chords. And now we're going to go up to a G. We're just playing the middle 3 strings here of a G chord. And we're going to go 5th fret of the D string, 4th fret of the G string, and 3rd fret of the B string. And then we're coming down to a unique chord. It's C sus4, you could think of it as, with F in the bass. So we're not going to get too technical with that. But we fret the 1st fret on the B string, open G, and then the 3rd fret on the D string again, back up to open G. And then we can repeat that sequence throughout the chorus. And so on. So if you're playing that in a band and you have an extra guitar kicking around, want something to do, that could help fill up the sound. And then let's get into the next section. The interlude section is neat. We have a brief key change to the key of E here. And what we're doing is playing some dyads on the A and D string over top of an E root. Okay, so we get into the interlude with a quick measure of 2/4 where we're playing some notes up the A string. We have a 0, 2, 3, 5. Okay, a little walk up the A string, and then okay, we're getting into our interlude section at that point. So now on the album, it's hard to tell if the slides are in there, but on all the live footage, Jeff LaBar grabs these dyads and slides down. So that's how I performed it, because I really feel that it adds to this section, and it sounds really cool. So feel free to do the slide. But if you want to copy the album 100%, then take your call if it's actually in there. It could be in there, but just not quite as pronounced. So what we're going to do, our first dyad is hitting the 7th fret on the A string and the 6th fret on the D string. Okay, we hit that. And then we just palm mute that E for that many times, okay? And it would be 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and we just keep that rhythm going for the interlude section. So then our next dyad is moving that same shape just down a whole step to the 5th fret of the A string and the 4th fret of the D string. Okay, that's the first measure. The second measure is again repeating this second dyad that we did. And then that final dyad is the 7th fret of the A string and the 5th fret of the D string. Okay, so we started off with an E major, a major third, and we finished it off with E minor, a minor third. So that's kind of cool. And then that's it. We just play that. And then you can just repeat it all over again for another repetition and then end it on an A power chord. Only one thing that I wanted to throw in there is that there is some leeway to experiment with your own dyads here. Live, I have seen a cool little thing just to kind of give it some variation, a little extra something, that instead of hitting 2 D major dyads in a row here, we have a D and an F sharp. We can also outline a D major chord at that point by moving up a little bit and playing the 9th fret on the A string and the 7th fret on the D string. So you could play that as the second, it would be the 3rd dyad, but you could do this. Now up. And our last dyad. So you're playing, instead of playing those 2 Ds in a row, you're playing 2 Ds, but it's an inversion, really, right? Instead of playing the root and 3rd, you're going to play the 3rd and the 5th, if that makes sense. But I have seen them experiment, adding a little more motion in the riff by doing stuff like that. So, there you go. Feel free to experiment around with that. Now, what do we have on the go here for our next section? A little bit of solo section. The last rhythm guitar thing that we need to talk about is what happens underneath the solo. Not much more to talk about. It is just the intro / verse riff that's playing underneath the solo, but it only plays 1 3/4 times. So you lop off what would be the 8th measure and you substitute in these 2 measures. Okay, so all that we're doing is we hit a C power chord and just 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and up to a D power chord on the 5th fret. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, and then we just get back into the chorus rotation that comes in after that. The chorus rotation just plays until it fades out at the end. So that's all that we have to talk about, and now let's get into some lead. The first lead lick that we need to discuss happens after the first chorus. We have a quick little lead lick and then into the next verse. Now, this was originally performed with the volume knob on the guitar, but this is going to be guitar dependent. Some guitars are easier to utilize the volume knob with your pinky, dependent on where that knob is. So if you've got a guitar where this is really difficult to manipulate, then you might want to just use a volume pedal for this. But like I said, Jeff LaBar originally performed this with his pinky manipulating the volume pot. So what you want to do is hit the 14th fret on the G string. These notes are all along the G string. And then swell in by rolling that volume knob up with your pinky. And then we're going to move down. At the same time that you move down, you roll that knob down with your pinky. And then you pluck the 12th fret and roll that knob up. And you want to be sliding these notes down too. So swell up, slide it down, swell up, slide it down. Then we move down to the 9th fret, swell in, slide it down, 7th fret. Okay, so we have those 4 notes, the 14th fret, the 12th, the 9th, and the 7th. And then we do a quick 4 to 5 hammer on the G string. We're going to triple pick that 5th fret and slide up to the 7th and then up to the 5th fret of the B string. And then our last measure. Okay, so don't get confused with what in the tab might look like some pretty confusing rhythms. I'll explain this, and really you're just going to be thinking 16th notes. So let's go through these notes first. We're going to start that last measure with a 6 on the B string, and then 5, 6, 5 hammer pull. And then down to the 7th fret of the G string, back up to the 5th fret of the B string, down to the 7th, 5th, 7th on the G string. Okay, so now what I was going to say about the timing is just think 16th notes. 1, E. So all of that little hammer pull would just get what would be the second 16th note of the beat. E. 1 E and a 2 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and. See, it's pretty easy if you think of it like that, right? Rather than coming up with some sort of convoluted way of counting that quick little trill. Okay, then for beat 3, we come down to frets 4 and 5. That's really easy. Just go 4, 5, 4, 5. Now we slide up to the 7th fret again on that G string. And then we do a 5, 7, 5 hammer pull. Down to 4, 5 on the D string, and slide into 7 on the D string. And again, that little hammer pull, just give it the value of a 16th note. 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. So if you think like that, it's actually not that bad. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. There you go, there's that lead lick. Let's get into the main solo. The main solo is actually performed both by Tom Kiefer and Jeff LaBar. Tom Kiefer takes the first half of the solo and Jeff LaBar finishes off in the second half, and then they come together at the very end with a harmonized run. So let's cover Tom Kiefer's part here. And if you're thinking A minor pentatonic here at the 5th fret, then that's basically, you know, what this is. We're adding in the other notes out of the A natural minor scale, but it's strongly rooted in that pentatonic scale shape. So what we're doing is starting with a quick hammer. So we want to hit the 5th fret on the D string and then hammer up to the 7th fret really quick. Okay, now we want to repeat that 7th fret again and pull off to the 5th. Come down to the 7th fret on the A string, but put a palm mute on that. And then a string skip up to the 4th fret of the G string. And then we want to hit the 5th fret and pull off to the 4th. And then down to 7. 7, 5, 7 on the D string. So. And now we want to go up to the G string, bend the 7th fret and release it. Come up to the 9th fret and triple pick that. And now so you play it 3 times. And the 3rd time, you want to bend it 1.5 steps and then release it, okay? And then do that again, a 1.5 step bend. Okay, so we're just playing a little melody all along the G string there. So we want to do that again, the compound bend again. And then release it, and now come down to the 7th fret, and now 9 to 7 pull off, slide down to 5, up to 7, and end it on 5. Bend and release 7 again on the G string. Now we want to go 6 to 5 pull off on the B string, and 7 to 5 pull off on the G string, and bend the 7th fret once more. Now, right when we bend that last 7th fret, that's where Jeff LaBar comes in, and he harmonizes by bending the 8th fret on the B string. So that creates a nice harmony and a nice entrance for Jeff's half of the solo. So we bend that 8th fret, hold that for 3 beats. And then on beat 4, we start a quicker little lick than we've done here before. We go 5, 7, 8 on the B string. And then we do some quick hammer and pulls here. We go 6, 8, 6, 5 on the B string. Okay. Whoa, I just have to cut in here, guys. As I was doing some editing, I noticed I made a tiny error in this spot. The performance of it was right at the beginning of the section, and the tab is fine. So if you're following along with the tab, then that's great. But I said here that we do a little hammer pull 6, 8, 6. Okay, we actually want to enter Jeff's section of the solo with the 8th fret bent on the B string, and then go 5, 6, 8, but then just do a 5, 6, 5 hammer, not this other thing that I just said. You know, as I slowed this down and started explaining, I guess I got confused. So I apologize, but yeah, it's just a 5, 6, 5, down to the G string, back up to the B string, and then whew, now that we got that clear, let's get going. Down to the 7th fret on the G string, back up to the 5th fret of the B string, and then we want to bend that 7th fret. Okay? Now we're going to tap the 10th fret on the G string and pull off. And so we're going to, we do that tap, release the tap, and then slowly release the bend. Okay, and then we do a hammer pull here, 5, 7, 5, slide down to 4. We're going to now use the bar to dip it a little bit. Okay, so I'll just get to that point here, nice and slow. And now we want to release the bar. Okay, so that it has that nice getting it back up into the 4th fret right on beat 4. So okay, so when we get back, when we release the bar, we're going to be on the 4th fret. We go 4, 5, 4, down to the 5th fret on the D string. And now we go 7 on the D string, slide it up to the 9th, and back to the 7th, okay? Now to end this nice little run here, it's not too complicated. We're going to palm mute the 7, 5, and 7 on the D string, up to the 4th fret on the G string. And now we're going to come back to 7, 5, and do that twice on the D string. And 1, 7, 5 on the A string. Okay, and then we're going to jump up into our harmonized line where both Tom Kiefer and Jeff LaBar come together again. So the Jeff's part really slow, since it's a little more complicated than Tom Kiefer's, would look like this. Okay, and then we're going to get into the harmonized part. Now, the harmonized part, I watched a lot of live footage for this again, so there is different ways that you can arrange these notes on the fretboard, but I tried to get it as close as to what Tom and Jeff were originally doing. And I believe that I've gotten this pretty close, but like I said, you can arrange these notes in a few different ways if you want. But we'll cover Jeff's part first. He's got the lower harmony. We start on the 12th fret of the A string, and we're just climbing up in thirds to start with, the A minor scale. So we start with the 12th fret on A, up to the 10th fret on D, 9th on D, 12th on D, 10th on D, 9th on G, 12th on D, 10th on G, and then we just go up the A minor scale here at this point. We can play the 12th fret on G, slide up to the 14th fret on the G string, and then go up to the B string, 12, 13, 15, and then 12, 13, 15 on the high string. So that whole thing. So now we're doing 6 notes a beat to finish that off. We want to do a quick bend with the 15th fret on the high string, and then we release it. So bend, release it, 13, 12, 15, 13, 12 on the B string, 14, 12 on the G string, and then 15, 14, 12 on the D string. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 beats of 6 notes each, and then bend the 15th fret on the high string again. So that's a pretty big hop there at the end. Okay, and then we want to repeat that bend. So we repeat and release down to the 12th fret on the high string, 13th fret on B, and then bend the 15th fret on the B up. And there's Jeff's harmony part. So it would sound like this, really slow. Okay, now Tom Kiefer takes the higher harmony and he starts on the 15th fret. So we go 15 on A, 14 on D, 17 on A, 15 on D, 14 on D, 17 on D, 15 on D, 14 on G. And then we start our scale run from that point. So far our thirds looks like this. Now we go 16, 17 on G, slide up to the 19th on G string, and then we go 17, 18, 20 on the B string, and 17, 19 on the high string. And then we get into our 2 beats of 6 to coincide with what Jeff was doing. And we bend the 20th fret. Okay, so bend, release, down to the 19th, 17th, go down to the B string, 20, 18, 17, and G string, 19, 17, and then the D string, 21, 19, 17, and then again, big string skip up there to bend the 20th fret again on the high string, and then, so bend, release that 20th fret, 17 on the high string, 17 on the B string, and bend 20 on the B string. So Tom's part. And there's the whole solo. Let's do the outro, and that's it for the tune. So the entire outro is played over top of the chorus progression. And the first thing that we hear after the final chorus is done and we get into our true outro is the B string, the 8th fret, bent up. Okay, and then we repeat that bend and release it down to the 6th fret. And then we slide the 6 down to 5. Okay, and then we do a little hammer pull on that. And so 5, 6, 5 really quick. Down to the G string, 7, 5, 7. Okay, and then we come up to the high string, bend 8 again. Release that to 7. Down to 8 on the B string. And then that repeats, that sets us up for a repeat. Okay, now we play that twice. And after we play that twice, then we get into another sextuplet run, so 6 notes a beat. And this is all out of A minor pentatonic. It's not that hard. If you're really familiar with playing pentatonic scale patterns, you should be able to wrap your fingers around this pretty easily. The hardest part will be just keeping straight alternate picking going. But we start on the A string, 12, 10, 12. Come up to the D string for 10, back to the A string for 12, and back up to the D string on 10. And then we want to go 12, 10, 12 on the D string. Slide up to 14, 12, 14. 12 on the G string, 14 on the D string, back up to 12. Then 14, 12, 14 on the G string. And then up to the B string on 13, back to the G string 14, up to the B string 13 again. And then 15, 13, 15 on the B string. So that whole run. Now we want to hop up to the high string 15, where we're going to bend that 5 times. And then release that just to an unbent 15th fret. Okay, so that whole thing. And then you can just do a rake on the strings with some muted strings, and just a random slide down the bottom couple of strings. And then we want to get down to the bottom where we go 3-1, 5-3. And then we get into our final little lick. It's a harmonized guitar line again. Tom Kiefer takes the high note where we go on the B string 5, down to the G string 7, 5, 4, 5. 5, 5, 5, 7, and then just repeat that. Okay, and Jeff LaBar takes the lower harmony there where we go. So start on the G string, 5, 4, down to the D string, 7, 5, 7. Then G string 5, back down to the 7th fret on the D string. And then 5, 4 on the G string. And then that just repeats. And then that just fades out. And there we go. We've covered every note and riff in the song. Thanks once again for checking out this Nobody's Fool guitar lesson. Cinderella was one of my all-time favorite 80s bands, and I really enjoyed putting this lesson together, so I'm going to be definitely doing some more of their tracks. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do so if you want to learn some Cinderella as well. Remember, I'm going to be doing every single Metallica song off of every studio album and loads more of your favorite tracks. I've been getting some great suggestions all the time, so there's no end here. The sky's the limit. Can't wait to get some stuff out for you guys, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you next time.